I think I'm having a heart attack. Okay, that is literally the last thing you ever want to blurt out at the end of a nice, relaxing dinner. But, that is exactly what happened to publishing executive Michael Hyatt during a business trip to Manhattan. He was rushing through this non-stop whirlwind of projects, getting pulled in 100 different directions. And suddenly, the chest pain began. The room closed in. He was rushed to the hospital in a cab, totally panicked, expecting the absolute worst. But after a battery of tests from top cardiologists, the real culprits were revealed. It wasn't his heart failing, it was acid reflux and severe, unmitigated stress. The doctor looked at him and said, "If you don't make this a priority, you could be back in here with a real heart problem." Welcome to this explainer on Free to Focus, where we're going to unpack how to achieve more by doing significantly less, saving not just your career, but potentially your health.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the exact stakes we're dealing with here. As journalist Oliver Berkman so perfectly asks, what will your life have been, in the end, but the sum total of everything you spent it focusing on? We spend so much time making trade-offs, choosing busyness over our high-value tasks, our health, our relationships, and our personal pursuits. If you are feeling utterly exhausted and like your life is just being hijacked by an endless to-do list, your feelings are incredibly valid. Every single day, we make value judgments about what is truly worth our attention. And if we aren't careful, the sum total of our lives will just be a blur of low-value, meaningless busywork.
But hey, don't worry, we're going to fix that today. In this explainer, we've got a clear roadmap to reclaiming your life. We'll cover the distraction economy, the productivity trap, and then dive right into a 3-step rescue plan. Stop, cut, and act.
So let's jump right in. Section 1, the distraction economy, a poverty of attention.
Decades ago, experts actually warned us that a wealth of information would create a poverty of attention. And boy, were they absolutely right. We no longer suffer from a scarcity of information. Instead, what we're completely starved of is focus. Just to give you an idea of the sheer volume of this spam on our focus, collectively, we send over 200 million emails every single minute. Think about that, every single minute. We start our days hundreds of messages deep, with hundreds more on the way, and a lot of us are checking them before we even get out of bed.
And this just totally compounds into our daily routines. Thanks to constant data feeds, text messages, team chat apps like Slack, and those random drop-in visits, research shows the average worker is interrupted or distracted every 3 minutes. 3 minutes! It is virtually impossible to accomplish anything of true significance when your train of thought is being derailed 20 times an hour. The modern workday honestly seems custom-built to destroy individual focus.
So, what does this all mean? Well, the crucial point is the staggering cost of all this distraction. Office workers are losing 3 to 6 hours a day to low-value fake work. That work that feels super urgent, but completely fails to advance any real strategies. Economically speaking, this drains up to $1 trillion annually from the U.S. economy. But why does this matter to you? Because the real tragedy isn't the monetary loss, it's the personal cost. It's your stalled initiatives. It's your postponed projects. It's that heavy weight of unrealized potential keeping you up at night.
Which leads us to part 2, the productivity trap, running just to stay in place. Desperate to offset these massive personal costs, so many professionals turn to endless time management hacks. And it creates this visceral analogy straight out of Alice in Wonderland, the Red Queen trap. Remember when the Red Queen tells Alice that it takes all the running you can do just to keep in the same place, and to get anywhere else you have to run twice as fast? That perfectly captures the exhausting, counterproductive feeling of the modern workplace. We download productivity apps, we tweak our schedules, some people even resort to cognitive-enhancing drugs, all just to keep pace on the treadmill. But here's the thing, running faster doesn't help at all if you're pointed in the entirely wrong direction. What we need is a massive paradigm shift. The old productivity model comes from the manufacturing age, the idea of getting more things done faster by making marginal improvements on repeatable tasks. But you are a knowledge worker. Your job isn't wrapping chocolates on an assembly line a split second faster. Your value comes from executing new, high-value, complex projects. So true productivity isn't about getting more done, it is strictly about getting the right things done. All right, let's get into the solution. Step 1. Stop. You have to define your purpose.
I know, it sounds kind of crazy. Shouldn't a productivity system start with go? Well, no. To properly stop before you move forward, you actually need to take 3 sub-actions. First, formulate. You have to clearly decide what you want out of your work and your life to gain clarity. Second, evaluate. Determine your course by looking at where your time is actually going versus where it should go. And third, and honestly this is vital, rejuvenate. You have to recharge your physical and mental energy. You are not a machine. True productivity absolutely requires defining your purpose and prioritizing your own well-being before you even look at a to-do list.
Moving on to step 2, cut. This is where you protect your focus. Once you've actually stopped to define what truly matters, you have to ruthlessly protect that focus by cutting out the non-essentials. And to do this, you've got 3 highly effective tools at your disposal. First, eliminate. You've got to flex that no muscle. Every single time you say yes to a low-value task, you are secretly saying no to your biggest goals. Just drop the tasks that don't serve your purpose. Next, automate. Look for ways to subtract yourself from the equation using software, templates, and background processes to handle the repetitive stuff. Finally, delegate. You have to get low-leverage work off your plate and hand it over to someone who can do it just as well, if not better. Basically, clone yourself.
And finally, step 3, act. It's time to execute with intent.
So you've found your focus and you've cut out the noisy distractions. Now it is time to tackle those surviving high-leverage tasks. Acting is all about intentionality. You consolidate by planning out your ideal week, physically blocking off time for different categories of work. Then you designate, meaning you stage your tasks so they actually fit your schedule, consciously holding back the daily tyranny of urgent but totally unimportant fires. Finally, you activate by actively beating back interruptions, turning off those notifications, closing your office door, so you can execute your most important work with significantly less stress.
Let's ground this theory in immediate reality for a second. If you're a writer, your high-leverage action is drafting content, right? So you should cut or delegate your inbox management. If you're an executive assistant, your high-leverage work is calendar management, while creating basic templates should probably be automated. A CEO's focus should be strictly on team building and strategic direction, actively cutting out random Slack chatter and needless meetings. The key takeaway here is that high-leverage work looks different for everyone, for sure, but the discipline required to protect it, that is exactly the same.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative question. Have you taken the Free to Focus productivity assessment yet? Because you really can't improve what you don't measure. I challenge you to take a hard look at your baseline today. Remember Michael Hyatt in the hospital at the beginning of this explainer? Yeah, don't wait for a physical or mental breakdown to realize you've been running on the completely wrong treadmill. Stop, cut, and act. Reclaim your time, protect your focus, and start getting the right things done.